Hello, and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. This is for August 2nd, 2024, episode 247. I'll tell you what, I'm getting a little behind here, my friends. Those of you who are just tuning in, I am a stand-up comedian, actor, and improviser, and overall a dreamer, and I am documenting my journey as I pursue comedy and all of that fun stuff with my daily podcast. However, I'm kind of like, 12 hours? I don't know. I'm a little behind because I'm releasing these episodes almost a day and a half after the time that I should be reporting on. So I have been releasing these like the morning after the day that I'm talking about, but now it's almost 2 mornings after. But, you know, I'm doing my best, everybody, to stay on top of this very audacious goal to release a podcast episode a day. But that is where we are at. So let's just recap a little bit about where I'm at, what's been going on. Mostly, I am at a battle with myself right now. Aren't they all internal? And that battle is writing. I have been struggling to write new comedy and to stay focused on writing, to prioritize it, stay focused on it. My attention span has just been completely shattered. I'm going to blame that video game, which, by the way, I have not played since I committed to hang it up about 5 or 6 days ago. But I think that my brain has just been turned into mush, and my capacity to concentrate has just been completely decimated through all of that video game stimulus. Not that I want to blame it all on that, but here we are. I am really working on getting my focus back and writing new material. As a matter of fact, last night, so weird because I'm technically supposed to be talking about Friday, but Saturday has already happened and now it's almost Sunday. But both days have kind of merged into one here. And both days, both Friday and Saturday, I really sought to carve out some time to do some writing. And my goal was to write a heck of a lot longer than I ended up actually writing. So Friday, after work, I went and got my gym on and, did a workout. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to grab my notebook. I'm going to go grab some food. I'm going to pop in the headphones and I am going to write for like an hour at whatever restaurant I ended up at. I ended up writing for like 20 minutes. And then there was a movie I really wanted to go see. And I'm like, hey, it's Friday night. It's movie night. Let me go treat myself to a movie. And then I went and watched a movie and then blah, 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 blah. So then I'm like, all right, Saturday, I have my whole afternoon is open. So what I'm going to do, I had to take my dad to the airport. I'm like, take my dad to the airport. I'm going to grab some lunch. Then I'm going to pop down to the library and I am going to write until the library closes, which would have given me about 3 hours of straight writing time. So I grab some lunch. I do some writing at lunch, and I did write for about maybe 20, 30 minutes at lunch. So I'm like, cool, doing good. And then while I was driving to the library, no, not while I was driving. So then I go to the library, I pull out the notebook, I start writing. I'm about maybe 30 minutes in, and then a really good friend of mine gave me a call, and he's a buddy I have been trying to catch up with for a while. And he and I end up chatting for like an hour and a half. We have this great catch-up session, lot to talk about. And pretty much by the time I was done talking to him, the library was going to be closed in like 20 minutes. I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense to go back in and get settled because the security is just going to come around and kick me back out. So then it's like, oh, and now it's kind of time for dinner. And so now I'm meandering and blah, 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 blah. And I finally just had to say, okay, I need to focus. I need to put my phone down, and I just gotta write uninterrupted. Don't allow myself to get distracted. Don't be checking my phone. Don't go thinking of all of the errands that I forgot to run. I mean, it's just the sheer volume of other distractions that will present themselves when I'm trying to write. I mean, it's just so much. And so what I did was I set a timer on my phone. I put in my earbuds. I put on some like white noise meditation music. That's what I like to do, just to give myself some sensory deprivation. And I just said, Paul, you are going to write nonstop until that timer goes off. So that's almost what I did. I wrote straight, and every time I would start to get distracted, I'd be like, Paul, just keep writing. Just keep writing. And I didn't quite make it. I set my timer for an hour. And at about 45 minutes, my brain just hit a wall. And it was just like, we've got nothing more. Now, that was the third writing session that I had today. So I actually have written a lot just in terms of the time frame. Because at lunch, I wrote for about 30, 40 minutes. I wrote for about another 30 or 40 minutes at the library before my friend called. And then I wrote for about 45 minutes again tonight. But man, it just this battle just to put everything down, put everything away, zone everything out, and just get that pen moving on the paper. And what's more frustrating is I don't like anything that I'm writing. I'm just like, man, I'm just trying to write anything and just hope that something will come out of that pen that I'm excited about. And that's just not really happening right now. So I don't know. This just seems to be just one of those personal challenges, one of those artistic downturns to where, like, if I can just push through this, just don't give up, just keep pulling the pen out every single day, just get focused, do whatever I have to do to make sure I'm not distracted and that I'm not easily interrupted. You know, my phone is on silent and out of the way, and there's not a TV on, or there's not distractions going around, and just keep writing and writing and writing. So that's what I'm working on right now is, well, I mean, that's sort of the in the trenches battle right now that I'm going through. Now, obviously, what I'm wanting to do is actually write a bunch of new material. Although I seem to be writing, but none of it really feels like material to me. But I'm just hoping that will come. So that is the struggle. The struggle is real. It's the war of art, my friends. So with that, let's turn now to the next part of the Paul Green Comedy Podcast that I have been focusing on lately, which is giving my analysis of the 48 laws of power. Most of these laws I am not a fan of. Every once in a while, I'll come across a law that I go, yeah, I can get behind that one. And actually, today's law, not only do I think it's a good law, it's also one that I think I'm particularly bad at. So it's a law where I have to go. Not only do I agree that this law is probably accurate and effective, I also had to look at it and go, yeah, and this is probably actually a glaring weakness of mine. And the law is simply plan through until the very end. Or to put it in other words, make sure that whatever it is that you're going for, have a plan and see that plan all the way through to the end, and not see the plan all the way through, but have a plan that is thorough and that takes into consideration as many possible contingencies as you can think of, and try to prepare for as many surprises as possible and then execute that plan. That is not a strength of mine by any means. And in the book, they give this really long example about some like explorer back in like the 15th or 16th century or something like that. But the book just says, yeah, the problem with this person is they were very passionate and they had this big dream, but then they just sort of were very improvisational in how they handled problems and stuff like that. And I'm going, oh crap, that's me. I am very improvisational, and I kind of just take things as they come, but I do have a big dream and I'm going for those dreams, and I do my best to plan stuff, but I've sort of learned that even the best laid plans just seem to be thwarted very, very quickly. The capacity to even see 2 or 3 steps ahead and to be right when it comes to life, especially if you're pursuing something that hasn't already been mapped out previously. I mean, there are certain life plans that have a pretty clear map already drawn by people who've gone before. It's like, well, if you want to be a lawyer, well, this is what you do. You get good grades in school, and then you take these tests, and then, you apply to get into these law schools, and then you go to those law schools, and you make sure you're the top of your class, and then you get an internship at one of these types of law firms, and then you go crush it every day, and then once you graduate, you go become, a junior associate or whatever, and then you do really well, and then you become a senior partner, and then, or, like whatever it is. Or, if you want to be a doctor or whatever it is, there are life paths that seem to have at least a pretty linear path, more or less. That's not so much the case with what I'm doing, with what my dreams are. So there is a lot more. I don't know. It just makes it a lot harder to plan. At least I think so. Maybe I'm being, I don't want to say naive. Maybe I'm being lazy. Maybe I don't really have a plan because I don't want to have one. Ooh, I'm really challenging my psyche right now, everybody. I am trying to see if I need to call out my own bullshit. That was a self-edited bullshit right there. Yeah, I don't know. I I didn't think this one through, everybody. Speaking of not having a plan, I also did not have a plan on this very podcast episode, which, by the way, I actually never have a plan on these podcast episodes. I just turn on the recorder and I just start talking. The only thing that I've been planning out lately is talking about the 48 laws of power. It's like, oh, I know I'm going to talk about a law of power, so I just need to go listen to a chapter and know that that's the chapter I'm going to talk about. Speaking of which, what am I talking about here? So I am talking about how much of a dream can you actually plan out? And, you know, I'm going to assume that there's probably a better way to do what I'm doing or attempting to do. And there may be a benefit that I am missing out on because I don't have a clear enough written out plan with all of the contingencies and all of the what ifs and, you know. So I'll tell you what, 48 Laws of Power, I've been pretty critical of you, especially when your laws seem to agitate my moral compass. But I don't think this law, first of all, I don't think I have any moral issues with it. I don't think it's a morally bankrupt concept to really try to plan out what it is that you're trying to accomplish, especially when it comes to your life. Now, granted, you have to leave some room for improvisation and some room for plans not going the way that you thought and for the unexpected, and you can plan as many contingencies as you want, but maybe there's always going to be that contingency that you didn't think of. But I don't think I have a good argument for not doing that. I don't think not having a plan is smart, for sure. Just like, hey man, just go with the flow. I do think that there is something to be said for being adaptable. Like I'm thinking of like football teams, every football team, the offense has a play and the defense has a play, but as soon as you hike the ball and that play is manifesting in real time, you got to make adjustments on the fly when all of a sudden, a 6'4", 250-pound linebacker is ready to take your head off. But you had a plan starting, so I don't know. I think I gotta say, you want to know what? I'm probably not right on this one. I think that just as I'm talking through this, I'm going, it might benefit me to actually map this dream out of mine a little bit more explicitly. I mean, I sort of have the vague concepts. It's like, I kind of wanted this to happen and this would be cool. But, I don't have it like mapped out in any sort of detail or planned out in any sort of detail of like, well, I'm going to, make this happen or I'm going to do this. And then my goal is to accomplish this by this time. And then from there, I want to see this happen. Yeah, that's a little vague. It's a little vague in my mind. So good on you. Good on you, 48 Laws of Power. I think you got me today. I think you got me. You gave me something to think about, and I think that this is a law that I might actually take some time to execute better in my life and see if it maybe doesn't actually help me get some more of that sweet, sweet power that this book is teaching us how to get. I mean, even if it doesn't get more power, I definitely think it'll help get a little more success. So here's what I'm going to do, everybody. I'm gonna pull out the old notebook again, and I'm gonna try to take this a little more serious and be like, what does a plan to get this dream even look like? Yeah, I just think I've been sort of playing with the idea of like, well, I'll know when I see it, or, well, I'm just going to kind of do this here and do that there. And, it'll all kind of work out in the end. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that is a good, it's definitely not a plan. That's for sure. And if it's not a plan, then it's probably not the most effective strategy. I mean, it served me well. I am where I am, and I'm happy to be where I am, but I definitely feel as though maybe if I had been a little bit more strategic and a little bit more organized and a little more planned out, who knows? All right, everybody. I think that I have thrown myself on the altar of confession enough for this episode. So yeah, I'm going to make a plan, everybody, and let's all go make a plan on how we're going to get our dreams and see how that goes. All right, so that is the update for technically August 2nd, which I know this is now coming out August 4th. I will do my best to try to maybe what I'll just have to do is just turn around and do another episode in a couple hours, just so I'm starting to catch back up here. All right, everybody. I hope your dreams are going well, and go make a plan. There you go. Do as I say, not as I do, everybody. But I love you all so much for listening. This is the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast, a podcast by a dreamer for all you dreamers out there. This episode is for August 2nd, 2024, episode 247. I love you all so much. I will talk to you tomorrow.